Welcome to my 2002 Sentra head gasket replacement. And the first thing I'm going to do is, as always, you want to disconnect the battery. And this needs a battery servicing, so I'm just going to remove the battery. And also, make sure you wear eye protection and hand protection, any other protection you need, but definitely eye protection. These are really good. They're 2X. So these are 2X, and they're not the bifocal 2X. If you get 2X, don't buy the bifocal ones. They're no good. Get the full lens. Makes the motor look twice as big. Just wanted to show you this while I was thinking about it. A way to store wrenches. I got a U-bolt at the hardware store. And then you can also get like this for my wrong drawer. Like this for my bigger wrenches you get. These are my long wrenches. You get one of these and you just squeeze it to open it. Works really good. It's about the best way I've thought of. It's about the best way of keeping wrenches. See, I've got another. These are my gear wrenches. They're on a U-bolt too. And also, you can engrave on the part that goes across the bottom on the U-bolt. You can put the, 12 millimeter to 15 millimeter, or like 12 to, what do they usually leave out? Was it 18 or something like that? 13. So you can put like 8 to 13, then 14 to 17 or whatever. And that way, when you put them, if you have all your wrenches, you can't put on those or the flare nut. I've always tried to figure a way of somehow. If somebody has a good idea, let me know. I just have them loose in the tray. And I also have my regular wrenches. These are the first wrenches I ever bought. My Honda 750. These, I never used these once. They're crow's feet. I've had these for 50 years. Haven't used them once. I got these. These are good. These are like flare nut crow wrench feet. I've used these a couple of times on brake lines and stuff. These are really good. See, they're on one of the squeeze ones. I cleaned all the terminals with battery terminal cleaner. The whole top of the battery, wiped it off good. And I cleaned insides of the terminals I just wrapped a piece of emery paper around an air hammer drift. You can use anything round, and just clean the inside of the battery terminals off. I'm going to remove the valve cover. I don't know if I'm going to get a new valve cover because of the spark plug tube seals they're almost gone. I don't even think they're there. They've like corroded away. And so I don't know if I'm going to get a new valve cover or replace the seals like I did in the video. I have a video where I just replaced the seals on an Altima. It was a 2003. Valve cover looked similar. It's a plastic valve cover. So here we go. I've had these EGR valves break on me. They get brittle. That's one of the reasons why I may want to just replace the whole valve cover. This plastic stuff gets brittle after a while. So you can just push these two together and just pull it out instead of cutting the wire tie, and you can reuse it. Now I'm getting this, trying to move this tube, and it's PVC. It's not rubber anymore. So I'm going to twist it back and forth. I'm going to do the, I think I'm just going to separate that when I take the valve cover off. Because if the hose was flexible, you could sort of bend it in the middle and pull it off, but it's like PVC right now. It's PVC tubing. It's completely hardened, so there's no flex, so I'll have to take the valve cover off. So right now I'm taking the screws that hold it on. It's strange that they use Phillips. I mean, if they want to use something else besides, I mean, they could use like hex head. That you can use like a nut driver or a hex, or even like these that you can use a socket or a Phillips. These are just plain Phillips. You wouldn't think you'd get enough torque to torque down the cover. So there's 10 Phillips heads holding down the valve cover. So what I'm going to do is just loosen them up a little bit and then hit the valve cover a couple times with the mallet to try to break it loose. I think it's broken loose. So I'm going to take the screws the rest of the way out and lift it up. I think I'm going to cut the tube in half. Needs replaced anyway because it's completely dried out. See all that stuff? That's broken pieces of the, hopefully it's not the valve cover, but it's broken pieces from the, probably the seals. They crumble. Well, they're rubber and they dry out and then they crumble, and the actual outside part of the seal's plastic, and I guess that crumbles too. Let me see if I can show you this. So here's the seals. They're all coming apart, and that's supposed to be rubber, and it's like plastic. And that's what all those little pieces are in there. All the seals they're all like that. They're all coming apart and they crumble. That's another thing too. You know, that's not. I don't know if, you know. I mean, the valve cover looks okay. I might replace the PCV. And the radiators are the same. They're plastic, and I've seen them crumble. And when they crumble, all that stuff goes throughout your cooling system, blocks up passages. You know, I don't know if there's like a year you can say by, you know, like 10 years replace the radiator, just replace it. I don't know, maybe you can go 15. I wouldn't go past 15 with a plastic radiator. Of course, this car, this is a 2002, so that's almost 20 years. It's like 19 years. But yeah, see, that's supposed to be rubber. Look at that. See, it crumbles. That's what all that stuff is in the head. Top of the head. See, it's all crumbling. So this is like 20 years old, I guess. You know, and I don't know if the radiator's ever been replaced. I put new hoses on. I didn't see anything cracking or anything, so I don't know. Maybe I'll wait a year and then replace the radiator. It's a nice little car. PCV valve looks good. I wonder if that just is a pressing or something. I have to look at a new one online and see how it goes in. I'm going to see if I can use this seal puller to pull this ridge out. And the good part is on the Altima, the seals were glued in, but these, they were just force fitted in, and it looks like they pressed this in. They might have glued this, so I'm going to see if I can pull it out. Oh yeah, that worked. Oh yeah, that worked better than I thought it would. So I just broke that ridge out, and then all I have to do is grind that away, and then I can just pop a seal right in there. What I buy is the Altima V6 seals. They're the same size as this, so I'll be ordering those tonight. So I have two of the Altima I did. You know, since it was a 4-cylinder, I bought seals for a V6. I had two left over, and unfortunately they're too big, so they won't work. Just a little bit too big. I wonder if I think they have an older Sentra with that had replaceable spark plug tube seals. Let me see if I can find that. Maybe those would work. If not, I'll have to get a new valve cover. Well, what I did is I ordered on eBay a set of oil seals for a 90s Sentra 1.6 liter. That's the only thing they had. Either that or a 2010 for a 2 liter. Something in the 2 liter might be the same size as like the Altima, and which were bigger, which won't fit, which I have, which won't fit this. Something in the 1.6. Hopefully they carried that over to the 1.8. The oil, the valves, the spark plug tube seals for the valve cover. Well, hello everyone, I'm back. So I'm kind of wondering whether I need to take the whole radiator out or just the fans, because I have to pull back the exhaust manifold. Right now I'm going to drain the radiator. Let's see if I can see you can sort of see it in a shadow down at the bottom, right there in the middle of the open space. But it's much easier to get to it from the bottom. And to get the coolant pan underneath the car and to drain the coolant, I had to jack the car up. So don't forget to use a jack stand. So there's the drain plug for the radiator. It's on the driver's side, so it's draining out, and I'll have to lower the car down a little bit so it right now it's uneven. It's up on one side. If it was on the other side, it'd be okay. I should have jacked it up on that side, I guess. That's a pretty cool sound. Wow. Taking the radiator cap off helps drain too. I'm going to see if I can just take the fan assembly out, so I have enough clearance when I take the pull the exhaust. I guess it's a catalytic converter. I think this has like 2 catalytic converters. It's got a pre and a pre-catalytic converter, which I think this is. And so when I pull that back, I'll have enough room. So I got to disconnect the upper hose. When I do, I'm going to check the inlet housing on the radiator, make sure it isn't cracking, because these plastic. I don't know if this is the original or not, original radiator or not. So I had to disconnect the fan, because I decided I'm going to try to take the fan assembly out instead of taking the radiator and the fan assembly. Just see if I can get the fan assembly. So I disconnected the upper radiator hose. I tucked it back there against the fuse block, and right now I'm draining the coolant out of the system. So the fan, I took the first connector off one of the fans, and what you do is you press down on this tab right here, and then pull back. And sometimes if you can't figure out how to release a connector, is go online and see if you can find the repair part. Find like this with, you know, just the pigtails, and you can look at it and pretty much figure out what mechanism is that releases it. I've had to do that before the internet. You just buy a new part just to see how it connects, even though you don't need it. So let me get this one off too. So I cut the wire tie on this. This should give me enough room to swing that the cable assembly out. Hear the crows talking? Okay, I got the other fan connector disconnected. So this may not be the original radiator, just for the fact that it's missing the rubber grommets that go in. On both sides. I have to disconnect this wiring harness that runs along the front of the radiator. That's for the fan connectors, and then also the overflow tube. You know what? Looks like I have to remove the battery tray. So I'm seeing if I can get the fan assembly out without having to take the battery and the battery pan out. And so 2 of the wires were for the aux sensors were affixed to the fan, the outer fan shroud, and I think that was something my doing. And then also on the bottom of the fan here, you have the transmission tube that goes to the oil cooler and the radiator. You got to unclip that. And also, I took the bracket that's like this. I took it was right here. I took that off. Slowly but surely, it's coming out. I don't know about getting it back in. I may have to I may have to take the battery out to put it back in, but I'll try. Okay, it's out. Yeah, I think that should give me plenty of room. So you only have to pull that back, the exhaust manifold. You only have to pull that back a couple inches. So this is what's clipped to the bottom of the fan. That's for your that goes to the oil cooler for your transmission. See, it goes all the way over here. This is one of the so this car back in its day in 2002 was really advanced. It had supposedly super low emissions. I forgot what they called it. When I remember it, I'll let you know. But basically, it had two sets of ox sensors. It had a pre and an after. It's got two catalytic converters. First of all, so you got two aux sensors, pre sensors, and two aft or post sensors. So they're both have the same color connectors. So one set's purple and one set's green. The other set's purple and green. So I didn't want to get them mixed up, so I numbered them. And they just disconnect by I think there's a tab on the. Oh, it just came off the. Connect these. You just press in and then pull up. There, they're all disconnected. One of the things I don't like in this wiring harness is they use solid copper wire, which I think solid copper wire can break easier than stranded. It's not as flexible either, but it is what it is. So then I need to take these two off, these two nuts. Hopefully they don't snap off in the exhaust. And there's a third one down here. And another one here. I have to slide each one of the aux sensors off of its post, and the way to do that is these are all broken. They have the tab. They all have the tab broken off except for this one. The other one just slid right off. So this one has a tab, and in this little window, that little window right there on my thumb is you have to press in with a screwdriver, which presses in on this, and then you can lift it out, because this is poking through that little window and it won't allow you to pull it out. All the rest of these have been oh, that one came off easy. Oh, this one I have to do too. So this is the little window, like, see, in the tab. That tab sticks out through there, so you can't pull it out, so you have to push it in. The heat shroud. For a minute I thought I was going to have to remove the alternator. But I just wiggled it around and pulled it towards me and lifted it up, and it came out. Look at that. That's some pretty impressive plumbing. So I'm going to squirt these with liquid wrench. And there's one down on the another one down there. And then I assume there's one And then probably another one. So that should give me enough room to pull that back. I'm probably going to do the timing chain on this. I mean the timing cover and the chain. Just for the reason that I want to see how much crud's in the bottom of the oil pan and how much the screen in the pickup has on it from all the disintegrating spark plug tube seals. And so to remove the oil pan, I think you have to remove the timing chain cover. I mean, the timing chain on these are like, I looked at it, it's like a Hyvo chain, and they probably make it to last. It could probably last the lifetime of the car without, as long as something doesn't happen to the oil pump. That probably could last the lifetime of this car. But I have a new chain, new tensioners. So I'm probably gonna probably do the timing chain also in the oil pan gasket. Well, welcome back. It's day 2 and it's about 9 a.m. and it's starting to be a scorcher out here already today. So just a reminder, when you jack the car up, always use a jack stand. Never just use the jack. So I'm going to take this dust shield off, and I'm going to have to take it off sooner or later. But I just want to bump the engine and see what. I'm pretty sure this turns clockwise, and I just want to make sure. You should never turn the motor in the opposite direction. You should always turn it in the direction of that it runs. If you're trying to line up timing marks or something, never back it up. Just go around another 360 degrees. So it looks like it's got two, probably like about 9 or 10 millimeter nuts, and then it's got, or bolts, and then it's got one push pin or bumper. What do they call them? Bumper fasteners, bumper cover fasteners. And I don't know what's on the bottom. Probably, I think it just has the same bumper cover. Yeah, they're 10 millimeter. So I got these tools. I ordered some replacement bumper cover rivets, they call them, and this came with it. I bought like 50 of them. I know it was only like $10 or $11, and these tools came with it. They work really good. Looks like it has another rivet right there. And that exposes the whole, all the belts. And the timing cover. This is what I have to undo next. It's part of the EGR. Your 2002 may not have an EGR, and you may not have the four aux sensors like mine has. This is called a ULEV. It's ultra low emission vehicle. And in 2002, it was marketed in California and I think New York and a few other states. And it was quite a vehicle. I mean, the emissions were almost there. I mean, the new cars nowadays are nothing. You know, they're a lot more cleaner than this. But back in 2002, which is like what 19 years ago or so, that was quite something. And one of the costs is an EGR, so I have to disconnect this. It goes down to the what it does. It recirculates the gas in the crankcase, and it puts it back into the exhaust. So what I'm going to do is got to disconnect that. And I have a 30mm wrench. Hopefully it's not on there real tight. There's my 30mm wrench, made out of chrome. Was it palladium? Oh, there it goes. A lot easier than I thought. Perfect. Next is to undo the exhaust manifold. Okay. So I squirted everything with some penetrating oil. So there's four for each side. There's one down at the bottom, and then there's two at the top. So there's one hidden down there in the back, right down there. There's the one on the bottom. There's the one on the bottom right there. So it looks like they're 12mm, and I can't get my gun in there, so I'll have to do this the old-fashioned way with a ratchet. So I just had a thought that came to me while I was taking these out. If you've got a lot of rust on the end, the threaded part, it might be a good idea to take like a wire brush you can chuck in a drill and clean all as much of the rust off. Because what's going to happen is when you try to remove these bolts, if you have a lot of rust, it's going to bind, and it may unscrew the stud from the head, which isn't that bad of a isn't that bad, but it's worse than it's stripping or something. But ideally, you just want the nut, and not the nut and the stud to come out. I had the wrench down there by the starter with the red cap, and that's 12 volts right to the battery, and that's not a good idea to play around with in that area with anything metal. This is something I should have done that I usually do first off, is I disconnect the battery. And I'm going to do that now. And like I said, that's before you start anything, always disconnect the battery. You need a 10mm wrench. Always disconnect the negative terminal and then the positive. And when putting them back on, put the positive on first and then the negative. Okay, they're all broken loose. And there's another bracket appears to be holding it in. You may have a bracket if because this is a ULEV. You may have a different arrangement for the exhaust, so you need to check that for your specific model. So remove all the nuts. This one came out with the stud. What you can do is put 2 nuts. If there's enough threads on the end, you can put 2 nuts on there. You know, one is lock nuts and hold it, and then try twisting this and trying to get it to come off. Or you can just buy a whole new stud in the nut. So yeah, I can pull this back enough that I can get the head off. Now the next step is we got to get this and disconnect this the hold downs for this wiring harness. And then we got folded back towards the ECU, and we got to disconnect the connector on the EGR. And what else is connected to that? And also the oh, that's part of the emissions. And then we got to disconnect the throttle cable and then take off the intake manifold and undo the fuel lines, and then it should be ready. Some of these I can push out, and some I'm just going ahead and cutting them, because I got new ones I can use. So to remove this connector, you just push down on this, and you pull out, what you have to do. Let me see if I can. Some of these have been in here the life of the car, and they don't want to come. There it goes. See, you just push in on this. This is the way they all work. This is a good example. See that little knob right there? That sticks up in this window, so you can't pull it out because that blocks it. And so you have to press down this lever. When you press down the lever, it allows that to duck under the end of this, and you can pull it out. Like I said before, if you get a connector, you work on another car and you can't figure out how it disconnects, just go online and look for this part. You know, the pigtails, where it just has like 6 inches of wire on it for replacement for when it's broken, and you can pretty much figure out how it releases. They usually have like a 360 view of the part. So in case anybody's wondering, this is a Sentra GXE. And this one here for the emissions, this one just disconnects just like the aux sensors. You just push in on this tab here and pull it out. So you also have to disconnect all the fuel injectors. You just press in on the tab there and pull up like that. Same theme as the rest of the connectors. Well, this is a really important cable, to tell you the truth. It's about the whole life of the car. Keeps everything running. And this one back here in back of the engine lifting tab, you gotta stick a tool into there and push on the release lever for the fuel injector. See it right there? There it is right there. When you remove that last one, you want to keep from using the wires to pull it up. You can use them also like when you press in with the screwdriver, you can sort of wedge up, wedge up with the screwdriver, give it a little assist. So what I'm wondering now is the fuel rail and the injectors are in the head, right? Or are they... No, they're not part of the intake manifold. So they're part of the head, right? I have to look in, well, I'll go into, I'll look in one of the Nissan dealership online exploded parts views. I'm going to take a break now. Of course, I hope you're not doing this step by step as you watch a video. It's always good to watch a video all the way through. Watch several videos, other ones from other people, consult a service manual. So now I'm going to disconnect the air box and the fuel lines. Getting the fuel lines off is going to be a job. I've been on there so long. I think what I'm going to do is undo the fuel lines here and then the bracket and just lift the whole bracket up off the intake manifold. I'm going to take both these are 3/8 inch fuel line, which I should never use it. I got the 5/16. I was looking for metric size. I'm pretty convinced 5/16 is what this is. So I'm going to remove this whole top assembly and just because these are real difficult to get off. I bought some tubing enough to do these, a little bit more, but I don't have enough to do these. I don't know if they have 5/16 fuel injection. It's got to be like, I think up to 50 pounds per square inch. So I slid this off. It was on here. I pressed in on this so I could slide it off the track. And that's going to stay with the intake manifold. I'm going to just fold this back like that. Oh, that was nice and disconnect the throttle. And disconnect this tube here. That's for exhaust manifold gasket, exhaust manifold gases. Tube is disconnected from there. So I got to disconnect, it's probably the throttle position sensor. So there was two connectors to disconnect. One was throttle position sensor and the other, I'm not sure, I'll look it up. And then there's this, which this is either some kind of it looks like a temperature sensor. Maybe the temperature coming into the into the manifold, and then this might have been a mass airflow sensor. Disconnect the vacuum line to the brake. Undo the air intake duct tube. I think I'll undo the other end too. Just move the whole section out. Move it out of the way like that. It's got the fuel lines attached to it. When you put it back, just make sure nothing has gotten in there. Really starting to get hot. It looks like there's I think the next step is to take the bolts out and remove the intake manifold. But first, I'm gonna put up my my awning. Get me some shade. It's starting to get really hot. So the manifold is in two pieces, and what I'm going to do is let's see if I can take the there's another connector down here. It's also a hose. There's a hose right there. Goes into the T on the emissions. And then there's also another connector. And then another. This is a water tube right here for coolant. So I got to disconnect that, and then put up my awning or I'd get baked alive. There's light not only of the sun, but it's reflecting down from that window too, right on the engine bay. So I finally decided to undo the holder, the fastener that fastens the fuel lines to the air tube, so I can remove the air tube. It just, that outer side just unsnaps, and then that bottom right part, that unsnaps. Sort of a lock tab. Then outside to undo this air tube that went in the side right there. It had one of these compression rings. Like, you may not have all this plumbing on your car, you know, it all depends. There's also another tube right there with a hose clamp that attached to the bottom. Where does that go? That goes to, I think that looks like it goes to the airbox, sort of. That's weird. It's like a sub-chamber of the airbox it goes to. This connector, it disconnects just like the aux sensors. Okay, it's disconnected, and then I just have that right there. I pulled the clamp down. I don't know if I'm still on the end of the inlet for it. And then after that, I have to undo this bracket remove the bracket, and then I can do the bolts that are on the that are holding. It's a two-piece manifold. It's the intake plenum, and then the actual manifold's underneath. I may have to take the yeah, I don't think I have to remove the fuel injectors right now. I think they'll stay in the actual manifold, the intake manifold. Okay, I got the tube off. It's right there. So now, before going any further, I'm going to plug up this tube and the throttle body, so nothing gets in those 12mm. Remove the bracket. Ooh. Several magnetic pickups, and a good story about this one. I've had this one since the 70s, and back when they had bottled soft drinks and they had vending machines everywhere, and I think it was Coca-Cola had a game, and you looked under the, you take the cap off your soda, and it had like a cork liner, and you peel the cork back and you saw if you won a prize. It was a steel lid on the bottle, and so a lot of people would just, they'd get the bottle of Coke or whatever they got, and they just open it, had an opener, and the lid would just drop down into this recess in the machine, and the guy that serviced the Coke machine would clean them out. And since they had this game going, I used to stick this down inside where the caps would go in there, and it'd pull up like about 5 caps at a time until it was empty, and I'd scrape the lids off, and I think I won something. I'm not sure what it was, but I think I did win a prize. So I have to get that. See it right there? I think I'm going to use this one. Uh-oh. Here we go. So screw that down into where it came out of. Oh, there's the bolts that I got to undo. See them right? They're up on the deck. There's one right there. So this is like a two-piece. So I have to take the plenum off, and then there's another one right there probably. And you get to them through the back here. So what it looks like is there's one bolt there. Then there's 2 bolts you got to remove that have like wires, grounding wires, I guess. And then there's one more bolt. So there's 2 bolts in the back and 3 in the front, and the grounding wires. these I don't feel like they have too much slack. They look like 8mm or something. I can use like a gear wrench or something. 8mm gear wrench if I have one that small. Or any 12 point. There's also a tube. Where's that tube? Oh my God. There's a tube here also connected to the top of the manifold. They really like their plumbing on these. See right there. I got 10mm long wrench to undo these. Let's see if I can get. To undo both of those. Oh, there's one more, another tube. It's a coolant tube, it looks like. It's a coolant for the, it's right there. It's this one right here, it goes right down there and it comes up. Right there. They really like their tubes, I'll tell you. They got plumbing on this. So this one I gotta disconnect. Yeah, and if you don't have a ULEV what is this? GXE? It's hot out here, I can't remember everything. GXE, I think. Then you may not have all this plumbing. So I'm removing these. They're Torx. I think that's the only way I can get this out. I have to remove both those. I can just hear the car calling me and telling me that. That's remove these. And to remove those, you need a Torx, a female Torx. It's an E8. I get back here. I have to remove the bolt from that, and then I think that's it. Well, I still have that tube. It's still attached. The coolant tube. I think it's right there. Let's see, where would that be? Oh, it's down. Rain. So I'm breaking the bolts loose for the one in the, this one's in the, it's going to be difficult because this pipe is kind of in the way. This is where I'm at with this one. There's a coolant tube I have to remove that goes up to the throttle body. I don't like doing this, but I cut through this one cooling tube or hose, goes to the throttle body, And it can be replaced with just generic radiator hose tubing. I tried getting it off. I can't get it off. It's in a really recessed area. Now I'm going to loosen up all the upper intake manifold bolts. To get to the last manifold bolt or upper plenum, I had to remove the throttle body. You can get to it using a universal joint, but I'm thinking that the gasket probably needs replaced. I have to replace it anyway. When I take the upper plenum off or upper manifold, I'm probably going to I was probably going to take it off and replace the gasket. I'm sure the gasket's probably dry rotted, leaking, who knows what. So this is the gasket for the throttle body, and it's I imagine this was kind of malleable at one time. Well, you know what? It feels like it's metal, actually. That's strange. Doesn't look like it leaked. Well, maybe. Yeah, I think it was leaking. I'll have to look at the new one. That's interesting. Actually, a metal throttle body gasket would be good. Because it looks like it's a channel that maybe flattens out when it's torqued down. But at last, a lot of throttle body gaskets I find, they're completely dried out and they come off in pieces that they once were kind of malleable and, rubbery like. And yes, there's another tube that needs to be disconnected. That's it's either the return or the feed for the throttle body for coolant, and this is one and that's the other one. And actually, I had an Impala and I just never connected mine up. I did some work on the heater core, and I never connected them back up, and I never noticed any difference. But these I will connect back up. So remove the clamp and then pull the tube off, the hose off. This tube needs replacing. Yeah, look at that, just broke. I was going to say it's dry rotted. I was going to show you it dry rotted and the tube broke right through there. That's probably like it's a dash pot for probably like for idle, because this doesn't have cruise control. Look at that, broke right. So that's, yeah, it's probably something for like idle when it's cold. That's the position sensor. But I looked at the I looked at where I took the throttle body off, and it looks like it was leaking. But no doubt, I mean, it probably could have been torqued down, maybe, I don't know. New gasket will fix all that. So to get on the last manifold bolt, I had to pull this pipe right here back. It's on a steel tube, and like I said, you may not have this. This is probably only on the GXE, the ULEV, the ultra low emission, because I've seen a lot of people, they fix the head gasket where they just tilt the whole head back without moving into the manifolds. Can't do it with this on there. You'd have to remove that. But anyway, so there it is right on the last bolt right there. 5 of the manifold bolts out. Well, the ones for the upper manifold. This bracket has to be undone. The upper plenum that goes to the fuel regulator needs to be undone, taken off. You also have to undo this vacuum line, take the clamp off. I don't know where that goes. It goes down. I'll have to research that, where that goes, just to know. It definitely was leaking. I don't know if that's coolant. It's probably coolant from the combustion chamber, I'd imagine. I think that tube plugs into the lower intake manifold. That tube, where is it? This one that connects to the plenum, that goes to the power steering. That's pretty strange. So it looks like there's a bracket on each side that I have to undo. Right there. I think there's one around on the other side too. And then this. That has to be undone too. There's another bracket. Right down there, right there. See the gold colored bolt? That's it. So the bearing caps are marked. See, this one says E2, E3, E4, E5. I wonder why they're not marked E1, E2, E3, and E4. That's strange. And then these are, I guess, intake. Intake 2, intake 3, intake 4, and intake 5. Huh. Interesting. So then I gotta take this cover off the front. It's two 10mm. Everything else has been pretty much 12mm. Move the EGR if you have one. There's 12mm, 12mm, and then right there another 12mm. So I pulled the EGR back, all three bolts removed, 12mm, the cover off, the front cover off here. So I unplugged and took out the fixing bolt and pull the sensor out. So you have to pop this out. And you also have to probably disconnect the, I think that's the temperature water temperature sensor. You have to unplug the cam position sensor. Working on the 10mm bolts holding this front plate on. Cover off. So now the whole front's exposed. Both cams. And, clockwise only. Move the two 10mm bolts and take this off. And you have to undo this the ground bolt and loosen the tension on the alternator and remove undo the bracket. I don't know if the alternator has a second mounting point. I think it does. Yeah, it does. I can see it, I think, right there. Okay, go ahead and remove the bolt that goes in there to hold the alternator bracket. I also loosened it up down at the bottom just to make sure there wasn't any tension. And also undo the grounding strap. And then use a 27mm wrench to get the timing marks lined up. Here's a timing mark, see that dot? And there's another one on about 10 o'clock. There's one on this one. The Dremel tool, and I marked the link. I marked the link right there, and then also there, and there's a dot right up in there. And then on this one, did the same. I marked the chain, there's a dot right there. It's 12. Or counting from the one, it's 11 between them, or counting 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 links between, counting both the links that are marked, or 11 in between. Now I use a 22mm socket and a 22mm wrench to loosen these up. The lock nuts for the bolts for the cam gears. It's my I got the exhaust valve cam bolt off just by using a wrench. But to get the intake off, I had to use my impact. Undid the I think it's a vacuum line that goes on the end of that tube right there. The clip's still on there. I'll take the clip off. Okay, so now get to take these. This one. They're 10mm, and I couldn't really get a good angle on them with the socket because of the chain. If you look down, it was kind of crooked. I didn't want to strip them, so I'm using a 10mm wrench. Once they're loose, then you can use a wrench. Start loosening the bearing caps for the cams. Start with the outside and work the way inside. So one thing I noticed, when you make your timing marks, if you turn the engine over, on the crankshaft, and you line them up again, they won't be there. It's like, I guess, every 180 degrees. That's so if I turn it again, I'm pretty sure that they'd line up. So I just made new timing marks again on the chain. So now I have to take the tensioner out, and whenever I have an endless pit that something's going to drop into, I always stuff a brag in there. I'm probably also going to try to grab the end of the tensioner with a pair of pliers too, and I think there's two 10mm bolts holding it in, partially removed. You should see all the sludge built up inside the tensioner. Doesn't really show it, but it's like grease in there. So the next thing we're going to do is hook this wire on here, because we don't want, when we take the gears off, the cam gears, we don't want the chain to drop down into the timing cover. And oh, by the way, when you're doing all this, you can remove the power steering reservoir and push it to the side. See it down there? It just slides right, just lift it up, it slides right off those tracks right there. So we don't want to jump a tooth. Actually, if it jumped a tooth, it wouldn't be that bad. It's just if it went like more than one, or some indeterminate tooth count, because this is an interference engine, which means the pistons can collide with the valves. Here is keyed, so it only fits on one way. Both of the gears are keyed. This one has a hole for a pin. The cam's out, and you notice the exhaust cam has this little raised part where the other one doesn't. I don't know if you could reverse them. Maybe the bearing surface is bigger on one than the other. But anyway, that's it also says whatever that says. Remove the connector for the variable valve timing solenoid. Unplug this sensor here. It plugs in right there. It's one wire. Could be, I think that might be the temperature sensor. I thought this one was. Let's see, where is it? This right here. And is that it? Yeah. What happens if two wires pulled out? It was already broken. And they pulled out with the weather pack. They can probably be put back in, but I'm going to try to replace the sensor. I'll find out exactly what these sensors are and report back what they are. I always thought that was the water sensor, but I have seen when you order parts, they have a one wire water sensor too. One of them's a NOx sensor. I'm probably pretty sure of that. One's a NOx sensor and the other is water temperature. ECT. So I'll also have to take this off, the water, I don't know, I guess sorting mechanism. It's what, there's thermostats in there, but this, I could take it out, the head out with this on there, but I think I'm going to take it off and leave it in the car, in the engine bay. So you have to take this off, And this off, and then there's one down there in back of the hose, and then there's one down on the other side. Down underneath. Let's see if I can see it. It's down here. It's right there, my finger's pointing. That's right there. Yeah, I think I'll leave that in the engine bay. So I loosened them all up. You need this one too. I forgot it. That one there. That one's a 10. The rest of them are 12s. You also need a 12 millimeter deep socket. Definitely for this one. And the other one probably not. And then the one that's underneath here, you can't get to it with the deep socket. You have to use a regular 12 millimeter. And then the other one, that's easy to get to. This one here, you don't need to take out. What that is, it's one of the water tubes goes to your heater core, which is probably the highest place on the cooling system. And what that is, it's a purge valve. What you do is you're filling this, you take that out, and air will start coming out. And then when the air stops coming out, it's just coolant, and you just put it back in. But it's kind of a pain when you. I've got another Sentra right there, and that one's not a ULEV, and it doesn't have an EGR. It just has this, and that's really easy for that to bleed it. But when you got the EGR, it's kind of difficult to get it. I had to I think I took like a stick and put some sealant on the end and stuck the nut on the end and got it in there. And once I got it in the threads, I think I got like one or two. I turned it and I let it dry, the sealant dry, and I think I got like one or two threads started, and then I just pulled the stick off and then put a socket on there. But it's kind of difficult to do with the EGR on there. So you can just screw that back in. And tighten it up. The bottom bolts, and the longest one's the back or the right, and then the shortest one's the front or left. Do this bracket. What it does is it attaches to this part of the air box, and you don't have enough room to pull this whole unit off, so you have to move this bracket. It's 10 millimeter, two 10 millimeter bolts. So this is the head, and this is the tightening sequence. So you just go from. I started with the one down on the side. Right there. Did these three. Now I'm doing the first hex. And you will need a hex type Allen wrench. And there's so I get 10, and then I go across to 9, then across to, then down to 8, across to 7. So it's like an X pattern. Loosening the number 14, and then do the ones along the side here. Make sure you don't. You want to make sure you don't drop any of the bolts down into the timing chain cover. These are the four that came out of there. They all say 7 on the top, but the two the one that's on the outside, on the engine outside, it just has a lock washer. Okay, all the bolts are loose. You can take them out by hand. You did get new bolts to put back in, right? You're not going to use the old head bolts? You got new ones, right? So just take like a rubber mallet, start banging on it. Start banging on it like this, on the side, around the corners. And then you just lift up and make sure you don't get any of the exhaust studs, or make sure none of the exhaust studs are hanging up on it, and then just lift it up. So I got to devise a way of, I'm only one person here, so I got to devise a way to lift this up and get the chain through it. I'm probably going to lift it up and put like a board underneath of it. But then I got to find a way, you know, I'll probably attach this to the hood. I hope I don't end up having to do the timing cover too, where the chain drops down or something. I'm going to try and lift the head off with the an engine support, and that way, if I get it lifted high enough, I can route the timing chain through and refasten it. Just discovered that there's the wiring harness is connected 2 places in the back of the one right down there, and then the other one's right around in there somewhere. It's right in back of like number 3 port. I think that's it right there. And then the other one's right down here somewhere, in back of number 1. No, it's right over here. I don't know if you can see it. It's right on the side. Three places it's attached at. The wiring harness, that is. Let's see if I can. So one is right there. And then there's another. There might be another on the side there, and then there's a third one, third attachment. Right around in there somewhere. So there's 2, possibly 3. So I finally got the wiring harness detached in the back, and it was just 2. There was one on the side of number 1 port, exhaust port, and then there was one like in back in number 3. And you know that everything's disconnected when you. What I did is I lifted this up with my with an engine support. So I'm the only one here. So if you can rock it back and forth like this, you know that everything's disconnected. So everything's pretty grubby down there, and you can see like where stuff was leaking past the gasket right there. So this has been leaking for a while. Hopefully the head isn't warped. So I got to pass that chain, somehow pass it through underneath there, and make sure it doesn't come off the sprocket. The rocket sprocket. Oh yeah, and also I'm going to put up my my awning. I don't have that up. It's starting to get hot. I'm sweating. Well, I got it up, and it's called a sunshade, I guess. You really can't leave them up and let water, rain on them. What happens between the, see where the top comes down, then it slopes out a little bit towards the frame. That fills up with water, and water's heavy, and what it does will just snap the legs. I did that once. I had two of these. The first one, the leg snapped on it, so I bought another one. So I rerouted the timing chain so it goes on the outside. It's nice and cool in the shade here. So what I did is I lowered the one end down, and I'm going to unhook it. That way I only have one side to unhook when I lift it up. So hopefully that will do it. There's the head. The head's off. And the manifold, bottom manifold. So two pistons rise and two pistons fall. My Honda 750 was like that. Had two pistons would rise, two would fall. But that back then, in those days, it had points, and they tried a lot of stuff out first on motorcycles before they did on cars. But what that would do is had two coils, and one coil would fire every 180 degrees, and then the other coil would fire every 180 degrees. But only one of the pistons in the pair would be on the compression stroke. The other one would probably be either exhaust or intake, and the spark was just wasted. But with this, it knows which piston fire. It's electronic. It's they got sensors that know which one of the pair to fire and one to not to fire. Here's the wiring harness that was causing all the trouble. So here's those tubes that connected up to the intake manifold, and they go to the power steering. Isn't that weird? I have to figure that one out. I don't know why I guess there's some kind of vent or something.